Hello, guys. I hope you all are doing good. Today's story is all about two former enemies who slowly fall in love through an arranged marriage, proving that even the coldest wars can end with the warmest love. This is actually my first time writing a slow burn romance, so I do hope you all will enjoy it. And if you guys want the epilogue or extra scenes of this story, and also if you want to have early access to all the new upcoming stories and access to videos not available in my YouTube channel anymore, check out the Patreon link given in the comment. Now, let's dive into our story.
Chapter 1. The Marriage of Enemies. For nearly 20 years, the kingdom of Nocthallo and the kingdom of Solmire had been at war. One kingdom ruled by strategy, the other ruled by strength. The north feared the name of Prince Leo Astoria. The south feared the name of Prince Silas Thronecrest. Both princes had become legends long before reaching adulthood. Silas Thronecrest, the Enigma Crown Prince of Nocthallo, was known as the greatest strategist on the continent. Cold-minded, brilliant, and impossible to predict. Entire battles had been won simply because he had predicted his enemies' moves months in advance. Leo Astoria, the Alpha Crown Prince of Solmire, was known as the Golden Lion of the South. Unlike most princes, he personally led his soldiers into battle. His victories weren't won from behind palace walls, but earned with blood, sweat, and countless scars. Neither prince had ever met face to face, yet they had spent years destroying each other's plans. Eventually, the endless war exhausted both kingdoms. King Aldrich Thronecrest of Nocthallo and King Theodore Astoria of Solmire reached the only solution capable of ending generations of bloodshed. A political marriage. Neither prince was asked for permission. The decision was made. The wedding would happen in Nocthallo, and the war would finally end, or so everyone hoped. Only 2 days before the wedding, Leo returned from yet another victorious campaign. The capital of Nocthallo had gathered to witness the arrival of the infamous Golden Lion. Silas stood on a palace balcony overlooking the main road. He expected a terrifying warrior, a ruthless prince, a monster wearing a crown. Instead, he saw an idiot, a very beautiful idiot. Leo was covered in dirt, blood, and dust from the battlefield. His armor looked like it had survived an explosion. Yet he was smiling brightly at children running alongside his horse. One little girl handed him a flower. The legendary prince immediately accepted it with the excitement of someone receiving a royal treasure. The crowd cheered. Leo waved back enthusiastically. Silas stared, and stared, and stared. Beside him, Aaron Waverly, best friend and advisor or Silas, slowly lowered his teacup. "You're staring." Silas continued watching. He smiled at me. Aaron blinked. He smiled at everyone. Silas frowned. "No?" Aaron sighed. It felt special. Aaron looked at his best friend for a long moment, then set his cup down. "You're already doomed." Meanwhile, Leo had finally entered the palace. His first thought wasn't about politics, or diplomacy, or marriage. It was about food. "Do they have lunch here?" The servant guiding him nearly tripped. Later that evening, Leo caught sight of Silas for the first time during wedding preparations. The infamous strategist stood surrounded by nobles, elegant, perfectly dressed, intimidating, the exact opposite of Leo, who was currently holding 3 pastries. Leo narrowed his eyes. "Ah, so that's him, the terrifying strategist who defeated my army 3 times. Silas looked up. Their eyes met. For a brief moment, neither looked away. The tension was immediate. Dangerous. Electric. Like 2 opposing storms colliding. Then Leo smiled politely. Silas completely forgot what the noble in front of him had been saying. The wedding arrived surprisingly fast. Every noble on the continent attended. The ceremony was beautiful. The decorations were magnificent. The atmosphere was emotional. Leo cared about none of it. Instead, he spent most of the reception staring suspiciously at the wedding cake. Nancy Beaufort, the Nobel lady, someone close to be called a friend of Prince Silas and also the one who loves to criticize him, found Leo circling it for the 3rd time. "Your Highness." Leo poked the cake with a fork. "What are you doing?" "Making sure it isn't poisoned." Nancy stared. The entire kingdom watched it being baked. Leo nodded seriously. "Exactly." Perfect opportunity. Nancy suddenly understood why the Southern Kingdom constantly worried about him. Across the room, Silas witnessed the entire conversation, and somehow found it adorable, which was deeply concerning. The marriage was completed. The treaty was signed. the war officially ended. For the first time in decades, Nocthallo and Solmeyer were at peace. That night, the newly married princes moved into the same palace wing. Neither knew what to say, neither knew how to act. Years of rivalry couldn't disappear overnight. Leo assumed Silas probably found him annoying. Silas assumed Leo probably hated him. Both were completely wrong. As they passed each other in the hallway, both secretly glanced back, only to find the other doing the exact same thing. They immediately looked away. Neither mentioned it. That night, Leo lay awake wondering why his husband seemed kinder than expected. Meanwhile, Silas sat beside a window thinking about a certain reckless alpha prince who smiled too much. Both eventually fell asleep, thinking about each other, neither realizing they had already become the beginning of the other's downfall, and perhaps the beginning of something much more dangerous than war, love. Chapter 2. Living Together. Marriage, as both princes quickly discovered, was far stranger than war. War was simple. You identified the enemy, you defeated the enemy, you went home. Marriage, however, apparently involved sharing a bedroom. And that was somehow far more terrifying. The first few weeks were awkward, painfully awkward. Leo would leave for training before sunrise. Silas would remain buried beneath mountains of reports until sunrise. Sometimes they barely exchanged more than a few words, yet somehow they always found themselves looking for each other. Leo would return from training and unconsciously glance toward Silas's desk. Silas would finish reading reports and immediately ask where Leo was. Neither realized they were doing it. Everyone else did. The first major discovery happened 3 weeks after the wedding. At exactly 2 a.m. A loud crash echoed through the royal chambers. Silas was on his feet instantly. His hand moved toward the dagger hidden beneath his pillow. Assassins. The thought crossed his mind immediately. He rushed toward the source of the noise, only to find Leo on the floor, wrapped like a cocoon inside 3 blankets, still sleeping. Silas stared. Leo snored. Silas stared harder. Leo continued sleeping. "How are you alive?" The question was entirely genuine. The next morning, Leo explained he fell out of bed sometimes. The servants later informed Silas that sometimes meant almost every night. Silas immediately ordered thicker carpets. A month later, Leo made a discovery of his own. His husband apparently didn't sleep, or at least that was what it looked like. Every night, Leo would wake up and find Silas sitting beside the fireplace, surrounded by reports. Trade reports, tax reports, military reports, reports about reports. The man read everything. One night, Leo finally walked over and dropped a blanket over Silas's shoulders. Silas blinked. Leo yawned. "You should sleep." "I will. You said that yesterday." Silas looked away. Leo narrowed his eyes. "You also said it 3 days ago." Silas suddenly found his paperwork very interesting. The next evening, Leo dragged him to bed personally. Aaron nearly cried tears of joy when he heard the news. As weeks turned into months, the tension between them changed. It became softer, warmer, dangerously comfortable. Dinner became something they shared every evening. At first, it happened by coincidence, then by habit, then by choice. Silas quietly remembered every food Leo liked: extra honey and tea, less vegetables, more meat, fresh bread. Leo noticed. He never mentioned it, but he noticed. And every night he started arriving at dinner earlier than before, just in case Silas was already there. The moment everything truly changed happened after one of Leo's training sessions. Silas entered the training grounds looking for him. Instead, he stopped. Leo had removed his shirt after practice. The world suddenly became very quiet. His body was covered in scars. Large scars, small scars, old scars, fresh scars. Proof of every battle he had ever fought. Proof that every victory had been earned, not inherited, earned. Silas felt something twist painfully inside his chest. No prince should have this many scars. Without thinking, he reached out. His fingers brushed one across Leo's shoulder. The alpha glanced back. "Oh, that one?" Silas nodded. "I got stabbed." Silas nearly died. "You what?" Leo grinned. "Good memories." Silas stared at him in horror. "Good what?" Leo laughed so hard he almost fell over. Silas did not find it funny, not even a little. Though later that night he secretly ordered additional armor to be made, just in case. By winter, the entire palace knew something neither prince had realized. They had become attached, very attached. If Leo was gone for too long, Silas became irritable. If Silas missed dinner because of work, Leo suddenly lost his appetite. Neither connected the dots. Nancy connected them immediately. Arun had connected them months ago. Then came Nachi, the disaster, the fluffy disaster, the adorable disaster. The rare mystical wolf cub from the northern mountains arrived as a diplomatic gift. The creature was beautiful. Snow-white fur, silver eyes, large paws, and absolutely no survival instincts. Leo fell in love instantly. I want him. No. Silas didn't even look up from his report. Leo tried again. Please. No. He looks lonely. No. He likes me. No. Then Leo used the face, the one that had defeated generals, the one that made soldiers volunteer for impossible missions, the one capable of destroying kingdoms, the puppy eyes. 10 minutes later, fine. Arun slowly lowered his teacup. That took less time than expected. Nachi immediately chose Leo as his favorite human. The wolf followed him everywhere, training grounds, gardens, meetings, meals, even bedtime, especially bedtime, which became a problem. Because every night Nachi would curl up beside Leo, in Silas's spot. Silas stood beside the bed staring at the wolf. The wolf stared back. Neither moved. Leo looked between them. Are you jealous of a wolf? Of course not. The answer came far too quickly. Leo laughed. Nachi wagged his tail. Silas disliked both of them in that moment. That night, for the first time since their marriage, the royal chambers felt less empty. Leo slept peacefully. Nachi slept across his legs. Silas sat beside them, reading, occasionally glancing up, just to make sure they were both there, safe, warm, home. And for reasons he still couldn't understand, that sight had begun to feel like his favorite part of every day. Chapter 3. Nancy's Terrible Advice. 10 months after their marriage, the palace had quietly accepted one undeniable truth. The crown princes of Nocthallo were hopelessly in love. The only people unaware of this fact were the crown princes themselves. At some point, their political marriage had stopped feeling political. No one could pinpoint exactly when it happened. Perhaps it was when Leo began waiting for Silas every evening before eating dinner. Perhaps it was when Silas automatically reached for Leo's favorite tea before preparing his own. Or perhaps it was when sharing the same bed no longer felt awkward. It simply felt normal, comfortable, like home. Every morning, Leo would wake up sprawled across half the bed. Nachi would occupy the other half, leaving Silas with approximately 3 inches of mattress. Yet somehow Silas never complained, not once, even though he absolutely should have. Aaron found this deeply concerning. One afternoon, Nancy Beaufort watched Leo blush after receiving a simple compliment from Silas. The noblewoman narrowed her eyes, then she marched straight to Aaron. We have a problem. Aaron didn't even look up from his documents. They're still idiots? They're still idiots. A moment of silence followed. Then they shook hands. Operation: make these idiots confess. Nancy's first lesson was simple. Seducing your husband. Leo nearly choked on his tea. My what? Your husband. Leo turned bright red. Nancy rolled her eyes. Step 1. Wear something attractive. Leo immediately nodded. Like armor? Nancy stared at him. No. Golden armor? No. My ceremonial armor? Nancy looked toward the heavens. Why are men like this? A few days later, Leo attempted his first romantic dinner. Nancy had prepared everything. Candles, flowers, a beautiful private table. Even the food looked romantic somehow. Leo spent nearly an hour practicing conversation. He had prepared compliments, questions, romantic lines, everything. Then Silas arrived. Their eyes met. Leo immediately forgot every single word. Silas sat down. Leo panicked. The weather. Silas blinked. What? The weather exists. Silas slowly nodded. Yes, it does. The dinner somehow became even more awkward after that. Nancy nearly threw herself out of a window when she heard about it later. Unfortunately, Leo's suffering wasn't over. Nancy's second lesson involved eye contact. Look deeply into his eyes. Then what? Your heart will guide you. Leo should have known that was terrible advice. That evening, he tried anyway. Silas was reading reports. Leo sat beside him and stared. 1 second, 2 seconds, 5 seconds. Silas finally looked up. Leo panicked. You have really long eyelashes. Silas. Leo. I'm sorry. Then he fled. actually fled. Silas watched him disappear around the corner, then quietly touched his own eyelashes. Later that evening, Aaron found him smiling at a trade report. What happened? Silas looked unusually pleased. Leo complimented my handwriting. Aaron slowly looked at the report, then back at Silas. You need help. The worst part was that Silas remained completely oblivious. He never realized Leo was trying to flirt, never realized Leo was attempting to seduce him. Instead, he found every failed attempt incredibly adorable. If anything, it only made him more attached, more protective, more possessive. Slowly, quietly, without even noticing. One evening, a visiting noble stood slightly too close to Leo during a banquet. Silas appeared beside his husband almost instantly. The noble immediately stepped back. Aaron watched from across the room. You know you're staring, right? I am not. You absolutely are. Silas simply handed Leo a fresh drink before walking away. The noble never approached again. As winter melted into spring, their love continued growing in the spaces between words, in shared breakfasts, in late-night conversations, in blankets silently draped over shoulders, in waiting for each other before sleeping. Neither prince confessed, yet everyone could see it, including King Aldrich, especially King Aldrich, which explained why he looked suspiciously emotional when Silas finally requested permission for a journey. A journey? Silas nodded. A short one. King Aldrich nearly smiled himself into another dimension. His son was voluntarily leaving the palace, with his husband, for something resembling a honeymoon. Miracles truly existed. Officially, the trip was a delayed honeymoon. Unofficially, it was an investigation. Silas had discovered irregularities within trade routes, taxes, and import records. Someone was stealing from the kingdom, and he intended to find out who. The honeymoon simply provided excellent cover. As Leo put it, kill two birds with one stone. Though neither prince objected to the sightseeing part. Preparations began immediately. Unfortunately, there was one final obstacle. Nachi. I'm bringing him. No. He's coming. No. He'll be lonely. No. Leo activated the puppy eyes. Silas lasted approximately 7 seconds. Fine. Aaron lowered his teacup. At this point, you should stop pretending you can say no to him. Silas chose not to respond, because everyone already knew the answer. He had lost every argument involving Leo Astoria months ago, and truthfully, he didn't mind losing anymore. Not when it was to him. Not when it was Leo. And so, completely unaware that their lives were about to change forever, the royal couple prepared for their journey. A delayed honeymoon, a secret investigation, and perhaps the beginning of a love story neither of them would ever be able to run from. Chapter 4. The Confession. The delayed honeymoon had been surprisingly enjoyable, at least for Leo. For Silas, it was half honeymoon, half investigation. Mostly investigation. The corruption network hidden within the kingdom's trade and tax systems was far larger than anyone had imagined. During their journey, Silas shared everything he had discovered with Leo. Fake trade records, missing taxes, disappearing shipments. Someone powerful was stealing from the crown, and Silas intended to uncover exactly who. After nearly 2 weeks of traveling, they finally arrived at the region where most of the suspicious transactions had originated. As expected, Silas had prepared everything beforehand. A beautiful manor had already been arranged for the royal couple. Servants were waiting. Security was prepared. Reports were organized. Everything was perfect. Because it was Silas. Unfortunately, perfection had one weakness. His name was Leo Astoria. While Silas buried himself in paperwork once again, Leo quickly grew bored. Very bored. Dangerously bored. Which was how he ended up standing beside Silas's desk. I'm going exploring. No. Leo blinked. You didn't even think about it. No. Why? Silas didn't even look up. Because every time you say you're going exploring, someone gets injured. Leo looked offended. That's slander. Silas slowly raised an eyebrow. Leo immediately looked away. Fine, sometimes. Every time. Eventually, Leo won, as usual. Not because he had a better argument, but because he had puppy eyes. The same puppy eyes that defeated Silas, kings, generals, and apparently common sense. Before allowing him to leave, however, Silas thoroughly covered him with his scent. Leo turned red immediately. Silas, you'll be away from me all day. That's not an excuse. It is. It really isn't. Silas ignored him completely. Nachi watched the entire exchange from the corner and looked deeply disappointed in both of them. The nearby town was peaceful, beautiful, covered in snow. At first, everything seemed normal. Then the attack happened. Fast, silent, professional. Assassins emerged from the shadows. Leo fought back immediately. But there were too many. The frozen lakes surrounding the town suddenly became part of the trap. One powerful strike, one moment of imbalance, and Leo was thrown into the freezing water below. The cold hit like death itself. Nachi moved before anyone else. The mystical wolf leapt into the lake without hesitation, ignoring the freezing temperatures, ignoring the danger. His only concern was Leo. With desperate determination, he dragged the unconscious prince back to shore and remained beside him, howling into the snowy wilderness, waiting, praying for help. Meanwhile, back at the manor, Silas couldn't focus. The reports in front of him suddenly felt meaningless. A strange unease settled deep inside his chest. Something was wrong. Terribly wrong. Then he realized something. Leo hadn't returned. Not once. Not all day. Silas was on his feet instantly. Without another word, he abandoned every report and headed outside. Then he heard it. A distant howl. Weak, desperate, Nachi. As an enigma, his hearing far surpassed that of normal alphas, and he would recognize that howl anywhere. Fear gripped his heart. For the first time in years, Silas ran. When he finally arrived, everything inside him shattered. Leo lay unconscious in the snow, pale, cold, motionless. Nachi remained beside him protectively. For the first time in his life, the legendary strategist completely lost control. His hands trembled. His breathing became uneven. His eyes burned red. No battle. No war. No enemy had ever frightened him this much. Without hesitation, he gathered Leo into his arms and rushed back to the manor. Hours later, Leo finally opened his eyes. The first thing he saw was Silas. Still beside him, still holding his hand, still watching, as if looking away would somehow make him disappear. Relief flooded Silas's face so quickly it almost hurt to see. Leo had never seen him like this before. Never seen him look so afraid, so vulnerable, so human. That evening they sat together beneath the stars. A small fire crackled nearby. Nachi slept peacefully at their feet. For a long time neither spoke. Then Silas finally broke. "When I saw you today?" His voice was unusually quiet. My heart stopped. Leo froze. Silas looked away. For once, the brilliant strategist couldn't find the right words. "I don't care how our marriage started." Leo's breath caught. "I don't care about politics." Silas swallowed hard. "I don't care about treaties." Then he looked directly into Leo's eyes. "I only care about you." Silence, beautiful, terrifying silence. Then Leo laughed and cried at the same time, because after months of wondering, months of hoping, months of falling deeper and deeper in love, the answer had been right in front of him all along. "I thought I was the only one." Silas immediately pulled him closer. As if he couldn't bear the distance anymore. As if losing him once had been enough. Their first kiss happened beneath the stars. Soft, gentle, and long overdue. Nachi opened one eye, watched for a moment, then closed it again. His humans were finally acting intelligently. After the attack, Silas wasted no time. The assassination attempt revealed everything. The corruption network was quickly exposed. The mastermind turned out to be a wealthy noble who believed royal authority meant nothing. He believed his money made him untouchable. He was wrong. Within days, the entire network collapsed. Every culprit was captured, every stolen coin recovered, and every traitor punished. When the royal couple finally returned to Nocthalo, something had changed. The marriage no longer felt political, no longer felt forced, no longer felt like duty. Because now it was real. Painfully, beautifully, undeniably real. And far across the sea, aboard a pirate vessel cutting through dark waters, another man received the news. Conrad Wilford, former naval commander, Leo's mentor, the man who had spent years watching his affection slowly become obsession. The report trembled in his hands. Leo Astoria had fallen in love with someone else. A slow smile spread across Conrad's face. Yod, unsettling, terrifying. Because if Leo Astoria could not belong to him, then perhaps no one deserved to have him at all. And somewhere far away, completely unaware of the storm approaching, Silas tightened his arm around Leo's shoulders, refusing to let go. Not now. Not ever again. Chapter 5. Blood, Vows, and Forever. After the corruption case was solved, peace finally returned to Nocthallo. Or at least that was what everyone believed. Unfortunately for the kingdom's nobles, a new problem had appeared. Its name was Silas Thronecrest. More specifically, Silas Thronecrest in love. Ever since the confession, the Northern Crown Prince had become significantly more possessive. It wasn't obvious to Leo, it was painfully obvious to everyone else. One unfortunate noble once complimented Leo's smile during court. The man spent the next 3 hours feeling Silas's stare burning through his soul. He resigned 3 days later. No one was surprised. For their part, Silas and Leo settled into married life with alarming ease. Their first consummation night after confessing had been gentle and heartfelt. Months of longing, worry, and unspoken feelings had finally found their answer. For the first time, neither prince was acting out of duty or political necessity. They simply chose each other. The palace servants quickly learned to stop announcing when one prince entered a room. The other already knew. Somehow, Leo remained fearless in every possible situation, except when it involved romance. One morning, Nancy entered the royal garden and nearly dropped her tea. Leo was carefully braiding tiny flowers into Silas's hair. The feared strategist sat perfectly still, allowing it, because it was Leo. Nancy looked horrified. The great northern strategist, Aaron, glanced up from his book, reduced to a decorative husband. As nature intended. Silas ignored both of them. Leo kept braiding flowers. Everyone suffered. Months passed peacefully. Then, the reports arrived. Pirate attacks, destroyed trade routes, missing cargo ships. At first, nobody worried, until the name of the pirate leader was revealed, Conrad Wilford. Silence immediately fell across the room. Leo's expression darkened. Years ago, Conrad had been one of Solmeyer's greatest naval commanders. He had personally trained Leo during his younger years. A mentor, a teacher, someone Leo respected deeply. But somewhere along the way, admiration had become obsession. Then, obsession became madness. When Leo married Silas, Conrad finally broke. Determined to stop the attacks, Silas and Leo personally led the investigation. This time, Nancy and Aaron accompanied them. The journey began normally. Then everything went wrong. Conrad's trap was brilliantly planned. One moment Leo and Silas were together. The next they were separated. When Silas finally found them, a blade rested against his throat. Conrad smiled. Broken, desperate, mad. Choose. His gaze never left Leo. Your husband. Or his life. For the first time since their marriage, Leo saw genuine fear in Silas's eyes. Not fear for himself, fear for Leo. And so Leo made his choice. He allowed Conrad to take him. Life aboard Conrad's flagship felt like a nightmare. Conrad treated Leo like a treasured jewel. The finest meals, the finest clothes, the finest rooms. Everything was offered, everything was refused. Because Leo had never loved Conrad, not once. To him, Conrad had always been a mentor, an older brother, nothing more. That truth slowly destroyed what little sanity Conrad still possessed. Meanwhile, Silas snapped. The patient strategist disappeared. The calm prince vanished. All that remained was a husband whose beloved had been stolen. Pirate hideouts burned. Entire fleets vanished overnight. Criminals surrendered before battles even began. Aaron watched another pirate fortress collapse from afar. I think we've accidentally unleashed a monster. Nancy nodded. Good. The final battle became legend. The harbor itself seemed to shake. Both enigmas fought with everything they had. Conrad fought for obsession. Silas fought for love. Blood stained the docks. Steel clashed endlessly. Even soldiers stopped fighting to watch. Eventually, Silas won. His sword rested against Conrad's throat. Conrad looked beyond him, toward Leo, still hoping, still dreaming, still refusing to let go. Then Leo ran, not toward Conrad, toward Silas. Straight into his husband's arms. I'm here. Leo's voice trembled. I'm okay. His fingers tightened around Silas's coat. You found me. For the first time, Conrad truly understood. He had already lost, long ago, because Leo's heart had never belonged to him. It belonged to Silas. It always would. A broken laugh escaped him. Then he surrendered. When they finally returned home, Silas refused to let Leo out of his sight for weeks. Not because he doubted Leo, because he doubted the world. His possessiveness only grew stronger. Leo found it ridiculous. Everyone else found it terrifying. One night during passionate moments, Silas permanently marked Leo. He feared that what if someone again tried to steal his husband away from him? No, he can't let that happen. So he gave him his permanent mark. A sacred bond between the two of them. Still, life slowly returned to normal. Trade routes reopened. The kingdom prospered. Peace finally settled over both nations. And for the first time, Silas and Leo simply enjoyed being husbands. Then came the greatest surprise of all. One morning, the royal physician burst into court. The entire room fell silent. The physician smiled. "Congratulations, Your Highness." Silas frowned. "For what?" "Prince Leo is expecting." The world stopped. Silas stared. Once, twice, 3 times. Then collapsed directly onto the floor. Chaos followed. Naturally. The moment he woke up, Silas ran through the palace, ignoring etiquette, ignoring dignity, ignoring literally everyone. He found Leo resting in their chambers. Immediately checked his pulse, his temperature, his breathing, everything. Leo laughed helplessly. "I'm pregnant, not dying." Silas looked unconvinced. "How can you be sure?" Leo stared. So did the physician. The pregnancy became the kingdom's greatest event. King Aldrich celebrated. King Theodore celebrated. The nobles celebrated. The commoners celebrated. The neighboring kingdoms celebrated. At one point, both kings attempted to outdo each other with gifts. Neither won. Leo received enough presents to fill an entire wing of the palace. Nachi became even more protective than Silas, which nobody thought was possible. Months later, on a peaceful spring morning, the royal palace welcomed a healthy baby boy. His name was Orion Astoria Thronecrest. He inherited Leo's bright smile and Silas's silver eyes. The entire kingdom fell in love immediately, especially his grandfathers. King Aldrich and King Theodore spent the next several months arguing over who got to hold him first. Orion solved the issue by crying until both carried him together. People would tell stories about the marriage that ended a war, the brilliant strategist of Nocthallo, the golden lion of Solmire. 2 enemies forced into a political marriage, 2 princes who accidentally fell in love. A love that survived conspiracies, assassins, pirates, obsession, and war. A love that built peace where hatred once existed. And every version of the story ended the same way. With Silas holding Leo's hand, Leo laughing beside him, Nachi sleeping near the fireplace, little Orion giggling in his baby voice, and a family living the future they had fought so hard to protect. Because some vows are signed with ink, others are written in blood, loyalty, sacrifice, and a love strong enough to end a war.